Hello, good evening, everyone. Just give us 3 to 5 minutes and then we can get a move on the weekend's discussions. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in today as we discuss some rugby from the weekend. Lots of stuff happened on Saturday, lots of stuff happened on Sunday, and lots of discussions here and there. So I was hoping we can get a move on this and very much be able to discuss what has been the rugby atmosphere these last couple of days and seeing what can be done. I think there's good news here and there. Some progress made in different sectors of the game. And I think that's what we're here to do today. We just discuss this and see where we can take our rugby to another level. But thanks for joining in. I hope you have had a nice Monday. I hope you had a nice weekend. There's lots of rugby here and there. There's rugby this weekend, and it's just our hope that we can very much continue with the rugby discussion and see how we can get that out of the way without any issues whatsoever. Um, so my name Edwin Wawira. I'll be taking you through today's rugby and seeing what is there to discuss from a rugby perspective. We have the tour down south. There's a tour down south in South Africa, Namibia, then South Africa. We're gonna have some rugby sevens rugby later on um, this weekend, where we'll have the rugby cranes again sending a contingent. I don't know where Mauritius is. It down south? Let me just do a quick Google here. Is Mauritius? Many of us don't know where Mauritius is. They say Mauritius is a country in East Africa. Just trying to see the map of Africa and see where Mauritius is. It's near Madagascar. If the girls in Madagascar have some allowance from the union or whatever, they can easily just transfer to this little island after Madagascar and very much catch the rugby cranes in action. Those will be playing on Saturday and Sunday in the Africa Cup, the Africa Sevens. Rather unique tournament now, considering what's at stake. I think the top two positions qualify for the Rugby World Cup, and then the top two outside South Africa and Kenya will qualify for the Challenger Series, the revamped Challenger Series. So, yep, there is a lot to discuss there. We'll get some update from the union, particularly their PR or communications officer, Shafiq, will be joining us to just run us through a few update areas here and there, coordinating very many things. A team in South Africa now, having been in Namibia over the weekend. a team in Madagascar that was obviously departing back for Uganda, having finished third, and then a team that will be going to Mauritius during the course of this week for the very much anticipated Rugby Africa Cup, a tournament that Uganda has had pretty much success, having built from scratch a team that can be able to winning I think their first tournament way back in the days. I don't know if you can guess that time, but I think it involved beating either Namibia or Kenya in a final. And from then on, we have people who have been winning this title for quite some time. And with the new team, obviously, there is a lot of expectations as to what they can do. The new team that is actually going to participate in this tournament managed to win the Kampala Sevens, a good warm up, getting a good a test per se from the South Africa All Star Academy, managing to win that one, but put under great pressure, needing some brilliance there from Malcolm Okello to be able to go through. But that notwithstanding, that will be taking place over the weekend. And then locally, we'll also be having the Central Sevens. Central Sevens, rather in a unique fashion, will be held in Entebbe. And the Central Sevens will attract teams like Rams, Warriors, Eagles, and the rest that I'll very much be able to discuss here, who will be planning to seek promotion to the main sevens league that is played across different regions. Talking about sevens, obviously there is a new committee in place that has been appointed to spearhead arrangement of circuits all over the country as we tour after the Rugby Africa Cup. So when you get the Rugby Africa Cup hullabaloo done, you have a week or two of relaxation, perhaps, depending on what they want us to do, and then we get onto the road to different journey points in the country to participate in watching of sevens rugby. So if I could start from there, that particular tournament will run from the 21st June to the 28th June, and it will have 2 circuits in total. Eagles obviously were last season's champions as per Hippos fans club, and Warriors and Impis will go down to start the fight back up. Impis just got their foot back into the Premiership, and now they have to get their foot back into the sevens domain, and this is obviously organized by Central Uganda Rugby Association. And if I could just run through the pools here and there, you're looking at the men having Pool A with Victoria Sharks, Entebbe Jaguars, and Warriors RFC. You have Pool B with Kisubi Pacers, Blue Phoenix, and Impis. And then Pool C with Chambogo, Mukono Hawks, and Golden Badgers Namugongo. Quite a new team seeing here in the sevens. Hopefully we can get an interview with them and see what their rugby is all about. The other teams are fixtures, quite household names in rugby. Maybe Blue Phoenix and Mukono Hawks being the younger of Golden Badgers. Very inspiring name. I don't know if they got it from the Honey Badger, Nick Cummins, but we'll very much want to see what their story is about as the Golden Badgers. And for the women, obviously, they will just have 4 teams, obviously getting into a round robin and seeing what that will do in respect to the knockout phases. We'll have the Ewes, Panthers, Entebbe Ladies Swans, and then the Golden Badgers from Namugongo. So still, ladies will be playing. So the first leg is going to be in Entebbe. Those of you who have longed for some rugby this weekend, you can very much travel to Entebbe and watch this particular fixtures, if I must say, in Entebbe. It will be a 1-day event, and fixtures will start as early as 8 a.m. So very much so, do make your way to Entebbe and watch some sevens rugby that will take place involving these particular clubs. As I said, games as early as 8 a.m. Without a doubt, expect some running rugby there. And if you do reach by midday, you would very much find when the third round is done, and we're looking into the next phase of the knockout stage. So don't miss out. The expressway no longer has EPS. Drive safe and drive back safely, and get to watch the rugby cranes later on in the Africa Cup, as well as them playing in the sevens. So that's quite important for those of you to engage in from that. So that will obviously provide an avenue to get promoted. So without a doubt, do give that a watch and see that. Obviously, you cannot ignore when talking about sevens. You can't ignore what's going on in India. India, they call it the RPL. I think it's something similar to the IPL cricket league, where you have particular teams, franchises formed to participate in the Rugby Premier League, a tournament that is having different personalities from different jurisdictions participating in a tournament that is in India. And rather proudly, I think one of us, the son of the soil, Philip Wokorach, is playing his part in this particular tournament as well. And do give that a watch. Check out the Rugby Pass live stream in respect to this. Yesterday, he very much was inspirational and influential in their victory for his team, Bengaluru Bravehearts. He did score a try, and though Asiola Rokalasoya, whatever his name is, scored the first try, he very much pointed out that he's the one who made the first assist in the RPL. So do click on the link on Rugby Pass. It's very accessible. Just have your account opened and then get a watch, and then I think you can easily rewind the link. I did miss the game earlier on today, but I was able to watch that. So yesterday his team managed to win their fixture. I just want to get that particular aspect of it. But he did have a good day yesterday, and very much so today. He also scored 2 tries earlier today. So do go back and watch that on Rugby Pass. Check out the RPL page on X, and then you can get a grasp of the fixtures there that will very much keep you abreast with what is going on in India. It's quite a flashy league. I think it has very many other players who are participating in this particular tournament. I did see Patrick Odongo playing in the game, and he got past Philip with a cheeky step there. There was Roscoe Speckman, who also is playing, Kevin Wekesa, Morris Longbottom from Australia, Scott Curry as well, the vet playing as well. So there's a lot of participation there from different teams and personalities of the sevens worldwide. And I think the hope and prayer is that this tournament can grow to magnitudes of greater lengths in terms of development. And without any doubt, you'll very much see the highlights coming through. And do give it a watch. I think it's very important to watch different aspects of sevens from different jurisdictions, and you get an appreciation of what they are playing. They very much keep tight rules representation in terms of representation, and they do have players from India and other jurisdictions. So they very much balance out the teams as much as possible. So do give it a watch on Rugby Pass and see Philip making the rest of the world get on their ankles or lose their ankles, lose their footing as he gets his way past to the try line. So that's going on in India, and I think the understanding is very much so after this particular tournament he will make his way to the Rugby Cranes and be able to dominate and show his ability when it comes to the Rugby Africa Cup. Obviously, Rugby Africa Cup, I don't want to jump all over the place, but we very much had a discussion in respect to making our proposed team. If RAC started tomorrow, what would your team be? And we thank you all for engaging with that particular content. I think it's very important for fans and players alike to appreciate the challenges that come with team selection and how the coaches with a vast amount of talent or pool of talent can be able to come up with particular numbers. I also thank those who anonymously did send through their teams and obviously with the explanation going alongside why particular players are playing in a particular position. I think it's never easy as a coach to have such depth and be able to come up with a 15-man squad, let alone a 23-man squad to adequately represent the country. So as we jump into that segment later on tonight, it's my hope that we can have that big discussion in respect to what you saw in respect to the Namibia game and how that plugs into the aspect of having our team being in a position to thrive and participate in the Rugby Africa Cup. Tight game against Namibia in Windhoek, but I think very much so. I think the apart from the other things that we'll jump into, one of the key frustrations was the camera work with the buddies as opposed to showing the most powerful scrum in Africa. So very much many of you have complained about that, but I think not to put pressure, but I think our buddies have been put on notice. They are ready to give us a show when it comes to the Rugby Africa Cup. And in doing a show, we very much hope you can spare an evening, not an evening, an afternoon or even morning or whole day, just donning that Fat Cats match as you come to Nambole for those particular 3 days. For those who have no idea the days, that will be 8th July, and then 13th July, and then 19th July. So the games will be on Tuesday, Sunday, and then Saturday. So without a doubt, playing Kenya on a Tuesday on on a weekday, do get your Snapchat that Snapchat sound out. It's like kumbe you can think it's a weno, it's a sato, kumbe it's a weno. So it will be a Tuesday that day. So very much get ready to watch the rock participation by the other teams as well. But obviously do get I think you have to get sick like on 1st July and talk to your doctor friends nicely. I think a doctor on the TL was recently up in arms, causing a lot of chaos on the timeline. I think without a doubt, we very much need to befriend these doctors to give us those friendly cheats that will allow us to participate in that. So without a doubt, don't miss the Rugby Africa Cup. Yeah, but obviously, where do I start? Should I jump into the women now? I think let's just jump into this, and then when that detail is done, I can have my speakers who are supposed to speak today. We'll also have, as I earlier said, would have Shafiq, the PRO from the union, to join in and just give us an update from a union perspective where things are in respect to the different teams moving around the continent and how they are faring at the moment. Then also notably, we would also have later on we'll have Joshua Wakabi of the Hippos just give us an update of what's transpiring in Ginger. And then this is obviously in anticipation of the podcast that we'll do in respect to this matter, but just a brief update in what's going on Ginger and what is happening. We see a lot of stories and what's going on. Yeah. Isometrics, I think this is the segment where I jump into isometrics with the Women's Africa Cup. Obviously, this particular tournament is one that Uganda qualified for in having emerged top in the Division B of women's rugby in Africa, managing to beat Zimbabwe, Tunisia, and Cote d'Ivoire. With that particular berth secured at the top, the ladies have qualified for the high performance division of women's rugby in Africa, where they managed to fit in the league or the caliber of teams like South Africa, Kenya, and Madagascar. So 4 teams, particularly in Madagascar, playing at the Maki Stadium. And boy, oh boy, did they put up a show. Very much interesting women's rugby there. We went in with a team that was stacked and also a team that was missing a few prolific players in terms of energy or boost from the bench. I think Ernest did put out an article about that, but if I'm to recall off head, I think Patricia Neck was very much injured, wasn't able to participate in this particular tournament. Leona Chen also was not available. Peace Lekuru wasn't available. Grace Aum wasn't available. Among others that I may have missed out. Pardon me if I missed out any name there. But very much so, you can get a bearing that Uganda's particular goal in this particular tournament ideally would have been to cause some disruption. Very much certain that this was not a tournament that would subject Uganda, obviously coming in as underdogs, having not been in the high performance unit, to any sort of relegation or sanction for finishing bottom. But the girls took their games with grace, rather unfortunately losing a tight first game to South Africa, 62-7. Then match day 2, managing to bounce back against the hosts, defeating them 20-24. For those of you who watched that game, I think those final minutes of pressure from the Lady Marquis was quite immense from for the home side against Uganda. I think Uganda very much put in a few shoulders here and there, and we did get some casualties in terms of injuries. Notably, Samia Aikuru got a head knock in that particular game and had to be replaced by Nambozo Mastula, having suffered, I think, a concussion or a head injury in that game. She visibly was on the bench, not on the bench, but on the sidelines with those who were on the bench for Team Uganda against Kenya, a game that was quite painful to see. Obviously, bringing back memories of our record loss in Kisumu, but without a doubt, a few areas of progress that have been made against Kenya, but without a doubt, there is still room for a better show. That one ending 49-0 in favor of the Lionesses. So, without a doubt, Isometrics has given me a graph. Isa, I didn't do good with math at school, but I'll try to break this down as easy as possible. I think one of the key things we'll be looking at here is obviously how we fared against the Africa's top opposition. And with that saying, you're looking at the games against South Africa. We only scored a try. Against Madagascar, we scored 4. And Kenya, we didn't score any try, leaving us with 5 tries throughout the tournament. I think one of the key issues now here looks at aspects of tries conceded. Isometrics notes that South Africa scored 10 tries against the Lady Cranes. Madagascar scored 3, and Kenya scored 8 tries. So we scored 5 and conceded 21. In terms of scrums, we managed to retain 12 against South Africa, 10 against Madagascar, and 14 against Kenya, bringing that to a total of 36. And against South Africa, we had a scrum retention rate of 100%. Madagascar dipped a bit to 90.91%, and Kenya, that was 87.5%, giving us an average retention in the scrum at 92.31%. Not bad for a team that has gone through the ranks to join the high performance um, ranks in Africa, women's rugby in Africa. And from a line-out perspective, 40% retention against South Africa, 40% retention against Madagascar, and 57.14 retention against Kenya, giving you an average of 45% retention. Yellow cards, which was quite the controversial area, not in the women's, but in the men's game. Very much got a yellow card against against South Africa, 0 against Madagascar, and 1 against Kenya. That particular yellow card against Kenya was quite the price to pay, as that opened the floodgates. Proskovia Muchala having to go to the sin bin in that one. And in respect to carries, notably, we faced a lot of ball carrying from the Kenyans. The Lady Cranes faced up to 155 carries from the Lionesses, as compared to a low rate of 128 carries by the Lady Mackies. Obviously, you need to check the run stats here by the Lady Mackies. I think the run stats were quite big in this one. And then South Africa with 149 carries. And when it comes to the penalties, I think this is something the coaching staff would very much want to be interested in. We got on an average, we had an average of 15 penalties per game, 12 against South Africa, 15 against Madagascar, and 18 against Kenya. So with that, I think Uganda has set the stage in respect to ladies rugby for the year. And I've been talking to very many people, and from a ladies' perspective, I think my major win for this year is that the ladies have played as many games. I think for a record, maybe those interested in the numbers can give us the details, but the ladies have played 6 games so far this year, which I think post-COVID has been the biggest number of games they have played in a year, or even ever since the inception of rugby from 2004, which was the mecca year of when rugby started, women's rugby. You could argue that this could be the most tests our ladies have played, but I'll let the numbers guys punch that in and give us the confirmation. We've played a test against Zimbabwe, a test against Cote d'Ivoire, a test against Tunisia. We've played a test against South Africa, a test against Kenya, a test against Madagascar. Those are 6 games. If the Elgon Cup goes ahead, we have the opportunity of having our ladies play 8 tests in a year. That's quite the record for ladies rugby, and it's good to see that out of the unfortunate incident of losing the opportunity to play in Poland, in respect to the Challenger Series, that has particularly turned into an opportunity for the rebirth or the regrowth of the 15s ladies code of the game. So very much interested in seeing how that will go this year and the year to come. So very interesting to see how that will go from our end in respect to that. Now, obviously, we'll very much open this for discussion. Isometrics will be joining us to just run through this, as well as the rest of the particats will be joining in to just have a discussion in respect to these last events of the weekend. Should I jump into the men's rugby now? Just getting a brief detail of what transpired over the weekend. I'd appreciate there's been lots of chatter about the rugby game over the weekend. involving Namibia and Uganda's position in respect to that, and maybe a lot of side discussions. But I think some of the key discussions, if I'm to just point out, maybe revolving around five things. Number one, Yasin Waswa started the game and Fahad Maido. I think that's good news for Hippos as a club and what they have done this year in terms of rugby. Number two, the Rams 50 million, the Rams 50 million. What do they call it? 50 million buyout price for Brian Wandera, who was noted by Ticini as the impact player of the match. I think we'll dive into that as well. Number three, the aspect of the yellow card and how impactful it was in respect to our ability to close the game. Number four, Liam Walker coming on and scoring 9 points in this particular fixture off the bench, and how that nearly got us through the wind. And then number five, I think I'll let you guys pick out number five, or anyone else who will speak, what number five would be in respect to your key takeaways from this particular game. But do give a comment in the comment section in respect to that, and tell us what your thoughts are about the Namibia fixture. Obviously, lots of fans having a back and forth about a debate, and without a doubt, it spilled over into Sunday as well as Monday. All tweets have resurfaced, opinions have since changed, but I think the thing that doesn't change is that Uganda Rugby Cranes will be playing their first game on 8th July, Tuesday at 4 p.m. In Nambole against Kenya. And the Rugby Cranes obviously down south on tour from Namibia, obviously going to South Africa to play 2 more test games, and then they'll come back to Uganda for further activities in relation to the build-up of the Rugby Africa Cup. So a lot to expect, but a lot of support needed here and there from these particular Cranes. So what are your particular thoughts of this particular match involving Namibia and Uganda? And what do you have to say about that? Let me just get some people to join in and speak, and then we can adequately dive into that rich discussion that needs to be had in respect to fans' opinions and the like. Let me just get a few speakers on, and can have this in-depth discussion.
Edwin, so where do we start from?
Ruben, how are you? I have Danny, who has joined as a speaker here. He's going to take us through his thoughts, but maybe we could give Danny a chance to first speak. There's lots I've spoken about. I spoke about the ladies who have gone through the RAC experience. We spoke about the selection by many, those who helped participate in the engagement in respect to selection of a national team. What would your national team, your 23 or starting 15 be as the RAC tournament looms closer? We also looked at the Central Sevens that will be taking place in Entebbe, and what it would be in terms of an opportunity for a team like the Golden Badgers of Namugongo to participate in a tournament like this, as well as the lady side, the Golden Badgers, again of Namugongo. So there's lots of rugby to expect this weekend, involving also the Rugby Cranes Sevens, who obviously won that particular tournament at KPA. And yeah, so lots to discuss, but let's jump into this segment, I just wanted to see what you people had to say about the 15's performance in Madagascar, the ladies. What do you have to say? What do you have to say about the Namibia game? And yeah, just tell us what you have cooking. Heathens have announced some signings. I also forgot that. How could I? Heathens announced some signings today, and we want to see what the reaction is. Who else is cooking a signing here and there? But Danny, go ahead.
Who's starting, me or Danny?
I want Danny to go ahead, then Ruben, you can come in after he has spoken.
Kawa.
Danny, are you able to speak? I think you can unmute and speak, and then we can hear from Ruben. Maybe Ruben, you can start off as we wait for Danny to gather his thoughts.
Yeah, good evening. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think generally for me, my takeaways from the weekend, especially starting with the ladies, many people can look at the different aspects, and of course, you've given us the numerical side of things, and of course, Issa later on will come and break down those stats. But personally, I think I was looking at these girls getting back into high level competition and having that kind of exposure from some of the previous games that we looked at. Where, take for instance, if you're to remember what happened in Kisumu, and that's I don't even think whitewash would be a sufficient word to use with what Kenya did to us in Kisumu. So just seeing the girls getting a lot more game time, seeing them trying to get a semblance of structure and how they would like to play. Clearly, there is a lot about the structure here and there that needs to be gotten more familiar with. But just to see that we're having a lot more consistent 15s women's rugby, and also the opportunity that maybe, who knows, we could also see them part of Elgon Cup. I think is a good opportunity for the women. We have a healthy number of young girls in the squad as well. And it gives us an opportunity to really grow the squad for seasons to come. Because when we have looked at, especially when you're to allude with the 7 setup, you have seen how those girls have been developed and the kind of results they have brought in. Now, if we can give the same attention, the same support, and the same time to these 15s girls as well, I think it presents us a very good opportunity where we have another chance for women's rugby to raise Uganda's flag going forward. But of course, it starts with opportunities like this. Yes, we might have lost with considerable margins to Kenya and of course South Africa. A good win there against the hosts, Madagascar. But I think for me it was just more about. Of course, there will be a time in the future where maybe we'll be a bit less sympathetic for certain results. But for now, I honestly think it's more of lessons than losses. How these girls are now getting exposed to that kind of level of rugby, and their peers in the different countries, and also just how we can be able to understand how we can play the Ugandan way, I think is what's most important. Of course, there are also other things that need to be factored in. Take, for instance, the management. We have seen, of course, Charles O'Neill really taking on a heavy load, having to both handle 7s and 15s. I don't know if that's going to be the norm going forward. But all those dynamics having to be ironed out, and then the girls getting consistent game time, I think for me is something that is very very interesting to look forward to. Maybe just, I don't know if I have to jump to the men's side of things, or we can start with the women.
Maybe just to add for the women, those who watched the game against Madagascar, I don't know if your hearts are made of steel, because man, it was a pressure game. And I don't know, these ladies from Madagascar, the man, they have a running style, as well as the aggression in contact and the offloads. There is this, I don't know if I should call her eighth man or eighth lady, but the player playing number 8 was, man, she was chaotic. I think she had the most offloads in that game. But I think what I would very much praise this coaching team and the players for was the tenacity. I think against Madagascar, our girls played all out. They tackled hard, and I think some of the stats that have been covered by Ticini reflect that. Let me see if I can pull up some. They talked about Helen Akanit, Proskovia Muchala. They talked about Lydia Nawiro's carries, and even the overall stats of the tournament show that Ugandans very much were dominant in this game. And I think from a coaching perspective and from a player perspective, those players and coaches and the team as a whole should be very proud of the results they did. I think having our players being able to dominate, Susan Odong carrying as hard as she can, carrying Peace Nemira had, I think, the most turnovers for Uganda. She had four turnovers in this particular tournament. So that means she's always lurking around the racks or the collusion point, and she's very able to go down and steal that ball for Uganda. So without a doubt, seeing Lydia change from the pack number 8 to now going to not number 8, I think in the flanks, or number 8 to center, and how that also helped improve the carries. Grace Navagala, obviously from the sevens, the experience was very much needed. But for me, the most important thing about this particular tournament, um, those things of relegation, whatever aside, and finishing third, was that I think the ability of our girls to understand that these things are actually possible. When given an opportunity to play top level rugby, they can step up to the plate. I very much liked how mobile we were in the scrums, especially in the Madagascar game. How we very much were able to at least get our bearings right. I think very much so against Kenya, we were a little bit slow off the breakdown, uh, and that could have had an impact. We managed to hold on to Kenya as far as we could, until that yellow card very much destabilized the sequence of play. But I think the players who played this particular tournament should very much be proud of themselves. I think I'd very much be interested in hearing what Shafiq has to say, if there is any reward for these players and coaching team. But to turn around the 15s program this quickly, I'm very much confident that given time, next year, and if we can have the Elgon Cup, especially the Elgon Cup is going to be very key, because we'll be coming off the backdrop of a sevens tournament, and maybe a little bit of Uganda Cup here and there. But I'm very much interested in seeing how we can close out those two tests if they are there. I think the union should have Elgon Cup ladies as a priority for this year, to have them further test themselves ahead of next year's tournament, if that's going to be the case. But I think the ladies deserve all the congratulations for what they have done this particular tournament. Let me just hand it over back to you, Ruben, as I look for the statistics from the ladies, and then just read out the key performers from our perspective.
Yeah, and I think one of the more important things is how we can also have continuity internally, not only with the games. How often can we have maybe mini camps, or at least mini meetups for these ladies to be able to play together, or at least to align some things from a national point of view? You know, when teams go back to, when players go back to their respective clubs, then also the priority switches up a bit, because with your respective club, you have different different goals, different ambitions, different targets for that particular tournament that you're playing in. So now it's important for them to always have those get-togethers or meetings where they come together and train, maybe for a couple of days here and there, or maybe just meet maybe some number of times in a week, just to get a fine tune of, okay, this is what you're doing at club level, but this is what we also need from you at national level. Maybe these are the individual targets that we have for you, and how can you maybe be able to execute or to achieve these targets, so to help you be more productive on the national level. I think that's one of the more important things. But then also important to build an even bigger, I know we struggle with a fully potent player base when it comes especially to the women. We have a lot of girls that are really getting into rugby, but not many of them are at the level of proper competitive rugby, because many of them are in development. But how do we also get the selection player base at a certain level where we are able to, one, create competition, then two, also from that, create a stern, proper leadership group that can be the core of what is being built. Of course, when you look at that, you look at players like Lydia Namibia, you look at Grace Nabagala, you're looking at perhaps Susan Adong, you're looking at perhaps Angela Nanyonja and the like. But it's very important to look at who are the core players that this is being built around, and what is the balance that they're having, especially when you look at the fact that some of them are also still featuring in the seventh side. So how is that dynamic going to really work out? That's something that's very key. So some of those considerations are, when it comes to development and everything, many of us see what happens on the pitch, but a lot of the work happens off the pitch. So I think it's important to also get that right as well. And the preparations, both when it comes to training time and also the opportunities to have test games or even just friendlies, to be able to show what we can do, or at least to get more acclimatized with the situation. I think my biggest stick from this situation is, one, these girls are now able to play some of the ladies they have been seeing on TV or in these big competitions for quite a while. I mean, there was a time when we were doing a comparison, and the Kenya ladies were, I think, going even to Dubai to play their test games and whatnot. And for us who are here, we didn't even have a plan, or at least the plan was unsure. So you find, in a way, at a competitive level, even with the players, they might be thinking that some of these people are maybe at a higher level than us. Maybe they are way better than us, and maybe giving them a little too much respect. But now, when you get the chance to rub shoulders with South Africa, you get the chance to again keep playing Kenya and get used to them. All that maybe too much respect, or that little bit of phobia goes away, and it puts you in a position where, one, now you're getting a little more familiar with test level rugby, but also with these opponents here and there. So I think it's a very good thing. I think one of the key things that I saw in that on the weekend was, of course, seeing the switch of Lydia Namabiru, normally at number 8, but this time finding herself in the center, which was testament to her versatility, her ability to be able to adjust as and when needed, and also just the sheer trust from the coach. So we don't know if it's going to be a case of, like, you're looking at Pius Ogena, who at some point was playing in the back row for his club, but then you find him at center, or was this just for this particular tournament where maybe they were just having some makeshift, as maybe we are trying to groom players that will be in those particular positions. Of course, the absence of peace was one thing that you could have considered maybe a factor. But then again, we know for positions, especially like center, the combinations and the consistency around combinations is very key. So, but in general, really, I think it was more about exposure, these girls getting a chance to learn, and also the coach getting a little more familiar with the squad, and with each outing, you get to discover a lot more about the team. The players get to also gel a lot more from, okay, I belong to Thunderbirds, I belong to Black Pearls, but now I belong to Uganda. And how does Angela Nanyonjo like to play if I am Lydia Namabiru, and we're in different clubs, but now we are really syncing as one for the national team. So I think it was a good one, and we hope to see a more substantial plan going forward for the girls. by the authorities that be.
Yeah, just thanks for that, Ruben. Just going through statistics here. This is from Ticini. They covered extensively the RAC Women's Africa Cup in Madagascar. As I said, turnover titans. These were tournament leaders in turnovers. Peace Nemira had 4 turnovers. I think she plays for the Avengers. Susan Adong and Poskovia Muchala with 3 each. Then when you come to the top ball carriers, Lydia Namaviru had 30 carries with a ball handling efficiency of 94%. Helena Kanit had 26 carries with a ball handling efficiency of 100%. Poskovia Muchala had 26 carries with a ball handling efficiency of 87%. Again, in the defensive queens, Poskovia Muchala had 39 tackles in the tournament with a tackle success rate of 93%, the highest in the entire tournament. So having her sit out with a yellow card against Kenya at that particular point, I think did much harm to our prospects in that game. But also in respect to that, another hard worker here was Grace Navagala with 32 tackles with a tackle success rate of 80%. Susan Adong had 31 tackles with a tackle success rate of 91%. Angela Nanyonjo had 30 tackles with a tackle success rate of 86%. And then Lydia Namaviru had 29 tackles with a success rate of 88%. So without a doubt, I think the platform of our ladies transitioning from the promotion to the high performance and actually playing in the high performance has been quite the good boost in terms of confidence of our ladies. It's good to see them participating in all stat categories, to say the least, the key stat categories that have been pointed out. And I think the hope is that with the 7th season, we have a very much competitive one as we did last year. Avengers and Black Pearls going all the way. Thunderbirds also putting up their hand up to fight there. Obviously, with Joshua Wakabi coming in, I've seen tweets about Nile Rapids getting back on track. Would very much want to hear what he has to say about that whole establishment in Ginger, particularly from a ladies rugby perspective. But I think what this shows you is that ladies rugby, once given the resources or the opportunities, our girls are capable. It just seems we have not been having the opportunities, obviously, from a continental level to be able to play against the best. And in our first show against the best, quite promising. And I think the hope is that next year we can add another win to our column and push with time and development, push to go against the big guns in this particular tournament.
Yeah, I think as Danny prepares to come on, I think the one thing that we need to perhaps pay attention to is how we can again create more competition locally. That really speaks a lot to one, the talent base and the pool that can be selected from, but it also puts us in a position where we also have a proper competition, where we have these girls playing a considerable number of games that tests one, their conditioning, that tests their mental, that tests their physical aspects. So an investment in maybe increasing the league maybe for next season, seeing how we can also maybe have the sevens program or the sevens tournaments rather increased, having more teams be part of the tournaments, I think is very, very important. But then again also, as a national team, regardless of where we are and maybe the gap between some of the teams we're playing with in this top tier, how can we make sure that we stay within that tier and not get maybe relegated or something? That is, I think, our immediate target, because we need to stay there so that we can keep rubbing shoulders with with the likes of South Africa and Kenya. That is the most important thing. So that means maybe the third, or by extension for the future, if there are any other teams added, how do we scrap and make sure we get those results even when we are not at our best, to make sure that we are still relevant within that particular circle? I think that's very important. But Danny, over to you.
I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ruben. I think Ruben has gone into the more technical part of it. Thank you very much, Ruben and Edwin, for going through that. I'll have a few things to say about the women's game and also the men's game, and rugby in general from my perspective of what took place over the weekend. First of all, kudos to Heathens for those signings. I think it's a step in the right direction. Also, it's the wake-up call for other clubs to start to work if they're not working already. To the women's game, kudos to the women for how far they have gone this year, or actually in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, both in sevens and in 15s. I think they have done a tremendous job. I would like to thank the coaching staff at national level, plus also the coaching staff for the different clubs that they represent. Most of the girls, or some of the girls, haven't played rugby for a long time, but you can see that there's been tremendous progress in terms of the rugby that has been played. Of course, as I've said before, maybe this week and also today, kudos to the union for putting in effort to make sure that the girls have been taken care of and they have been able to represent us at those tournaments. It's a good starting point. I hope we're able to build onto that both on the national level but also on the club level. Of course, we know the struggles women's rugby has been in terms of funding, in terms of reach on the local scene, especially in the clubs. We have seen what has happened, especially this season, where a lot of clubs didn't have facilitation. But we hope that not only the union, but even the clubs and those who are in charge of it, and those who think for the clubs, are able to uh, find more ways, or find different ways of being able to get more fundings, which funding then helps us to have a bigger pool. A bigger pool then means that we have more talent. More talent means that we have a bigger chance at the stage. But I think this is a step in the right direction. Of course, there were some things that Ruben has already mentioned in terms of game management, in terms of defense, in terms of how we played. Helen, if you're listening in, she also gave a good analysis continuously during the games on what she thought could have been done better. For those who need to get the more technical part, I think you should follow Helen and see what she wrote about the women's games. But on the whole, I think we have done well as a country in terms of the women's game, and we've made progress. I hope we can build on that. That's a full discussion that maybe at some point the good people at Fat Cats and the rest in the media will have. On the men's side, we also had a very good outing in Namibia. We didn't get the result that we wanted. As a Pirates fan, I've seen so many near losses and near wins. Rugby is a game of very, very fine margins like basketball. We saw the discussion that happened online about what fans felt was cost us the game, or what fans felt has been costing us at national level. But I think for the first outing, or the first game that the national team has played, with the number of people who are getting their debuts on the day, I feel like it was a good game for us to fill out. Whether it was in the scrummaging, whether it was in the lineouts, whether it was in the team play, it was very nice to see Asin playing for the national team. It was very nice to see Fad Maido. Of course, we saw the impact Wandera had when he came off the bench. We saw very many players that were able to put on that jersey and represent us, which I think was a good thing. I hope that this test, as tough as the loss was, is something we can build on as a national team. Of course, we know that there are many other players that didn't travel, that most of us know have been at this level before. And I hope that when those are able to come into the fold, we perform much better. Most of you saw Philip today. He was playing the sevens that are taking part in India. He had 2 tries, performed very well, and I'm sure that if we bring in the more experienced players to help even those that have been there, even those that are having debuts, I think we can push it a notch higher, and within a month's time, we may be able to see some progress. I don't think everything is lost. Uh, Edwin talked about the fixtures. We're starting with Kenya, and I feel that with the game that we had against Namibia, if we're able to recover, if we do not get any injuries, of course, those are too many ifs. But if we do that, I think as a country, we have um great potential of performing well in the rack that's coming in July. Minus that, I would like to submit and thank you for allowing me to speak on the space. Back to you, Edwin.
Danny, thanks for that. Let's first go local before we go international. The signings Hiddens has made, Keith, Yusuf, and Jason. Obviously, adding a few good players in their docket, having seen how injuries were very impactful at Hiddens this season and how it significantly played its part. I think you have also been following the discussion vis-a-vis how Hiddens had to adjust accordingly here and there. But obviously, this comes as a shock on the market. I think even me personally, this is something I did not see. Very much, I think, a well-crafted statement that talks about the players will still be able to play their role with Eagles. That is particularly for the Central Sevens that will be coming up. But then once the window is open, the transfers will and obviously no details whether it's a full transfer, loan transfer. That became an issue when Hiddens played Victoria Sharks at Chadondo, first in the league. But by the time it reached the playoffs, that one was already done and dusted. It had been resolved. But from a local thing, how does this shake up in terms of players get you as a Pirates fan and maybe also part of Pirates deep states? What does that leave you in? Does it mean you have to now start the discussions? Are you cashing in on the Negos anytime soon, or that will be after RAC?
First of all, kudos to Hiddens for those good signings. for for those who be online, we talk to a lot of players. A lot of them are our friends. Kudos to Hiddens for doing their work hard. And I think Hiddens has kind of set a precedent for how things should be done in the transfer window. And I hope a lot of teams can borrow a leaf from them. I hope those players also, I wish those players the very best in their new home, other than when they do the full transfer. We hope they'll play very well. But I think Hiddens has been very exemplary in terms of how they have executed their communication, their transfers, and other things that we can learn from them. But I think as a club, talking on behalf of the Pirates, I think right now we're also still trying to figure out exactly what we need. It's not good for you to be greedy like that. Yes, it's good that you should be able to know which parts you actually need. It would be bad for any club to buy a player, especially a good one, and not give him enough game time, or to buy a player and stall the progress of the young ones, or to buy a player and maybe cause a bit of friction. Managing clubs is a bit tricky. For those who have been in management, for those who have been coaches, for those who have been teammates in terms of rugby. So I'm sure you'll be hearing news. The transfer window ends usually before the new season begins, which is supposed to be Uganda Cup. So there's still time for transfers to be made. But kudos to Hiddens for those mercurial transfers. I don't know what will happen to Eagles then. I'm sure the Eagles people will give us their take when they get the time or when they have the space. Yeah.
I think these things, it's very easy. You just have to go to Entebbe this weekend on Saturday to see what the Eagles are going to be about, and be able to tell us just to get a glimpse of what the Eagles will look like when they run on trying to why am I talking about Eagles playing in Entebbe? Sorry, Eagles were already promoted to the sevens, so maybe we'll see them in the sevens if they'll participate. So, pardon me, I had a fit in my mouth there, so sorry. Yeah, but then obviously back to the national team. I think for me, from my aspect, was that it was good seeing Test rugby again. I'm very unfortunate that Byron had to get injured that early into the game. Took quite the contact there, quite the collusion there as we were defending our line. I think very much possible. I think what that game emphasized or showed us was the extent of physicality of Test rugby. I think you could very much see the Namibians when it came to defense as our Ugandan guys carried the ball. The tackles were quite, I don't want to say hot, but they were quite nerve tingling. You could feel the pain as you watched on YouTube there. You could very much feel the sting in the tackle there. It was quite physical for our boys, but I think they held their own. And I think what's very, very commendable is that effort from 12-3 down to put up a lead. And I think what this test majorly brings out for me, particularly, is the effort that was taken to get back to scoring ways off the three. It was very, very important to see that if Yassine's kicking boots were not working on that particular day, scoring one, I think he scored two kicks on the day. You would very much have someone else who can easily come on to the field of play and push as hard. You have a player in Brian Wandera who can very much come on as a substitute and take charge in aspects of momentum and having impact off the bench. Seeing him named as impact player of the game, and I think getting that rating, and obviously the questions that come around. I think even those of you who have been following club rugby, you'd very much asked, I think I very much asked a few people, different clubs, but why don't you try Brian Wandera? That guy is solid. And no one has taken him up. If Rams is getting a solution to their relegation issue, why can't the club try and see if they can get him or even get him on loan? And I was assured that, boss, do you know the contract the man signed or something like that along those lines? Rams can come and confirm or deny. So hearing that just shows the value that the player has. He played in the championship, but unfortunately losing to Impis in that game that was dubbed the finale. But obviously, it just goes to show you that the Rugby Cranes obviously have to work hard on a few areas that can get them better. I think the ability to score is very, very important, and leaving points on board is something that should not be left to chance, especially where we are right now. And then also discipline. Discipline is very key in rugby. I think with how the margins of the game were looking in terms of a draw, Namibia also having to drill their way through the Uganda defense through a maul and score, but then also subsequently having a maul of theirs defended very well by Uganda. It just goes to show you that fine margins are always very important when it comes to 15s at test level. So unfortunately, penalty given away, and then that puts us in a position where it was do or die. But I think overall a good show from the Rugby Cranes. I still felt we should have won that game. Maybe a bit of being too greedy on my end, wanting a win to get things right. But we just hope that the next test games that will be played with the two South African sides can bring that very much chemistry, that composure in decision making, and the ability of the players to be tested as much as possible. And I think what Danny said is very important. We have not used all our players. We have some players who are still around. and I think very much so will be joining the team in South Africa. So to have that comfort of more players with even more experience or ability to change a game from scratch, you would very much be confident that Uganda is in safe hands. But against Kenya, you can never be certain. So let's all have our players get a run on the field and then come to Nambole very, very confidently with the aspirations to give the home fans something to cheer about. Hopefully, we can have a public holiday on Wednesday after the game.
Yeah, definitely. With the Rugby Cranes, of course, with the squad that was taken, you'd ideally not think that's our best squad, in my opinion. But I was personally happy with so many of the fundamentals, especially with the forwards, looking at the different aspects of how we are trying to get go forward ball, how we are trying to organize our set piece, and how we're trying to make sure that we have a proper playing platform. I think the forwards showed that they're intentional about putting themselves in that position. Yes, they may not have done it to full perfection or the way that would want to be fully dominant. Yes, the scrums were dominant, but I think some aspects, especially when you look at open play, could still be better. But going to Namibia, those conditions, from the screen, it looked really, really hot. It looked hotter than what we are normally accustomed to. So trying to and you see you're trying out new combinations. You have a young number 10 that is really trying to find himself. You have a forward that is coming, a prop that is coming into test rugby and that kind of level of rugby that is expected there. Among other things, I think it was a good test for the boys. And of course, we still have that challenge of ours where we concede early, then we start to chase the game. That's something that we, I think, need to figure out, because it does put us in a bit of a tricky situation. Yes, we did come back in this game and we did even lead at some point. I think with everything that we are working on, with the different aspects that backs have to work on, that forwards have to work on, we also need to work on the mental to make sure that we get victories as much as possible. That means maybe minimizing on some errors in key situations or in key times, especially when you're trying to be aware of the clock versus the situation of where you are in the pitch. I think it's something that we really need to look at a lot. But generally, I think the scrums were really good. I think Emiemu, from the time I saw him in Kenya and the way he was throwing at for the national team versus now, there's been clearly a lot of work done. I think also his confidence has gone up, because donning that shirt is not easy. So I'm going to give him kudos for that as well. Hard luck for Byron. I mean, in a situation where there is so much competition, especially at back row, you want to utilize every opportunity you have to make sure that you show the coach that, especially with the consultants around, you want to show them that I'm the guy that you need to pick versus, of course, some other informed players. But then again, you find yourself in a position where you get off due to a concussion, but great to see him partake in the post-match interviews. So that means he's a bit okay. And we hope that it isn't something that's very serious, that he can get the rest that's needed or the precaution that the doctors require, and then maybe he'll be back. But I believe every player deserves their chance to really compete for the specific numbers. It should be all out busho out there. Let the players compete. And I think my biggest prayer for this entire tour as it is little or no injuries whatsoever, because we are trying to see that we have the best team forward. Especially for me, on a personal level, I'm looking at that first win against our noisy neighbors. Everything else we shall address, but how do we make sure we get that first win? We are hosts. We can't afford to be out of the main cup contention on match day one. I think some of the things that we can still work on, I think at some points territory and the way we were kicking wasn't necessarily putting pressure on their back three. So that's something we need to maybe adjust in the way we are trying to exit, in the way we are trying to put in contestable kicks and all. And then also on our end, when we get the kicks, how we are able to make the the decisions on how we are returning. Is it, are we trying to exploit gaps? Are we trying to look for the 50-22? What's our strategy? I thought that at some point maybe, of course, I'm watching as an observer, not necessarily on the pitch. I'm sure there was a communication given, but I didn't seem to see a pattern of what they're trying to do with the return on the particular kicks. There were some handling errors that maybe made a bit of connectivity a bit shaky here and there. Some passes to Justin Kimono that when he was running proper lines, he was not able to gather the ball. And yet, I think on the day, he was one of those players that was really trying to get us go forward ball, because we had a lot of people trying to carry, but not many people actually getting gain line success. That is one of the things that we really struggled with a lot. I also felt like in attack we were standing a little too flat. I don't know what the case was, especially when you look at the stature of Ugandans versus our competition, especially at this level. We're not the biggest, so that means we have to utilize a lot of run when we are going into our phases. But I thought that we were too static. We were waiting for the ball in a standing motion, and we were too flat, and they really tried to rush up on us. So on top of that, they were killing as much momentum as possible that we could possibly have. Yeah, I did jot down a couple of things, and I think, but majorly those are the things that need to be addressed. I think when it comes to that issue that has been really lingering about Aaron and the yellow card, I think it's just, I think for some rugby fans, it's a case of, I want to call it a bit of trauma. Maybe we have also witnessed his growth from the times when he did get a lot of yellow cards and some red cards here and there, and then also maybe cost the team a chance to maybe have ascendance in the particular situation. But I believe he's one that has really humbled himself. He has really disciplined himself, and it's been a while since he has been getting silly cards. People need to understand that in certain situations, you find yourself, because of how the game is going, because of how fast the game is happening, that something will happen with you not being able to even get out of that particular situation. And we need to offer these players some grace here and there, so that we shouldn't too early in a game try, or in preparations, try to kill their confidence when we are trying to build for something bigger. This does not necessarily mean that we are saying that don't say anything about players in the event that they maybe do silly mistakes. Maybe they cost us certain games. As a fan, you have a right to speak about certain things. But then again, we have made it such a habit, such a trend, as if it's cool for us to be negative about even the slightest of things. I mean, Namibia is a team that isn't really easy to play, and we really push them to the wire like that. And it's in preparations. Let us maybe point it out. Also, the way we point out these things, the way we communicate these things, I think is very, very important. And I want to say, even me myself, I am on a path of learning how to understand even better how to communicate these things, because at the end of the day, what we want is for these players to get better, not for them to just shrivel in a lack of confidence because of some atrocious things that can be said about them, and then we don't have them really at their best playing for the country. There were some people talking about the union being favoring him and referees favoring him. I'm like, guys, how has it even reached to that point? I mean, okay, if you're pointing out that Aaron shouldn't have maybe gotten into that process of contact that led to the yellow card, talk about it. But then again, now you're bringing up conspiracy theories and whirlwinds of stories that are from God knows where. It's crazy to listen to some of these things. So anyway, my urge in all this is, guys, let us try and appreciate that this is preparation. Yes, we want the team to win, but our bigger goal is Rugby Africa Cup, where I know people are going to be at their most brutal. But for now, can we be behind the team, support the coaches and their decisions? Because we don't see some of the things that they see on a day-to-day basis. We don't understand some of the things and we tend to assume that we know a lot of rugby that we actually do not know. So let us be a little bit humble and also offer a little bit of grace in the way we communicate. But otherwise, I think good outing for the Rugby Cranes. I can't wait to see their next one, especially with the other bunch of players that will be joining them. And we hope that by the time they are back, most of them, if not all of them, are healthy and they are ready to really play as one and really defend home turf this time around. We expect a better outing as compared to what happened last year. That early blowout by Zimbabwe, and then us having to fight back. And also we showed character that we, even if Zimbabwe was clearly the best team at that tournament, we had the character to come back and almost even win the game. I felt like towards the end we could have even set up a drop goal or something, but we chose some different decisions in that situation. So that shows that our boys have the potential to compete at that level. But how do we get behind them and support them and do our part to also help them be ready for that kind of task?
Yeah, test rugby is not easy. The margin for error is quite minimum as compared to club rugby. I think that's why you come under the microscope very we very much will criticize you on the spot without a doubt. I think test rugby is where there is no room for fundamentals. You didn't learn how to kick, you didn't know how to field, you didn't know that you're supposed to jump like this, you didn't know that you're supposed to not tackle like this. I think what you get to understand with test rugby is that the microscope or the room for error is very, very minimal. And with that opens a large door for lots of criticism as well as analysis from those who are watching. And fans are fans. I think you learn to appreciate what they do and what they say in respect to rugby. And in that regard, they always have their opinions. And I think I posted something saying those who watch NBA, there's a guy on TikTok called Quiz, man. That guy is crazy, man. He can real come for you and make you feel like rubbish or something like that. And even one particular player managed to try to engage with him, and he eventually ended up blocking him. But what that means is that test rugby will very much put even the best of players under lots of criticism. They will be subjected to lots and lots of eyes on them, and any small mistake, any misstep, any mistake, or any yellow card, any infringement will very much be uh, castigated or even blown out of proportion. If it was not necessarily one that was in terms of reasonable play. So you can never always be ready for that. But all I can say is that the fans, I think you as fans, I think go ahead with that. I think as players, they are very much trained and able to focus on their game. And I think as a player, the only way you can silence your critics is by playing the best game of your life. If you tend to listen most to us who are behind the keyboard and are suffering to even climb stairs, I think it becomes um, not really good to your game. But if you come and silence the doubters, trust me, you very much go to that players, that fans' eyes and say, what were you saying? What were you saying? And the guy will clap you on and say, man, well done. So I think with players, the greatest motivation in failure and in victories to always show that you're the best version of yourself. So I think from a player perspective, that I think it's for them it's very easy. It's more of like keep your head down and just go and perform as to the best of your abilities. I think there is when you silence the critics, you silence your doubters. Many have gone through that phase on national team and even at club level to go through the criticism, to go through the chaos of being an aspect of discussion here and there. But fans are very much within their rights to call you out here and there in respect to what they think was done wrong or whatever. I think maybe we can go overboard at times, and it now degenerates into something that is a little bit beyond the game, and it becomes a little bit ugly, which is not particularly the best use of your time. Once it gets ugly, it becomes a totally different issue. But I think when you point out things of the game, it becomes very, very easy to have the discussion on. So I think there was a post here and there about positioning and whatever, but I think at the end of the day, not to put pressure on our players, but they would very much be under the microscope, and it just goes to show that what's coming up at Nambole is not going to be any easy. We are playing Kenya, who I think when we played them in Nairobi came too close, and then subsequently at home we lost it. Our first, not first, but our real opportunity of being able to win the Elgon Cup for the first time at KPA came down to ashes. We had organized cameras, we had organized programs, well knowing that things were going to happen, and wanted that on camera, but it didn't work out. So even those on the fans end and media obviously had to keep quiet and deal with the consequences of that loss. I think you do very much vividly recall the famous Pio rant. How did we get here? Is it how did we get here? Ruben, I forget. What did he say?
Let's be honest.
Yes, let's be honest. Yes, let's be honest rant. Starting from the national anthem to very many things. Or even the national anthem, this game round was not the best of versions, but anyway, Juliana is the queen, so it is what it is. But you see things like that, like the players very much know, the fans very much know what's at stake. There's no better opportunity or stage to beat Kenya. Those who won in 2007 will tell you they went and played against Kenya in Madagascar and they blew them away properly, like it was the best feeling ever. And short of the 2 years short of the 20th anniversary of winning the RAC in Madagascar, if we could use that as a springboard to go ahead and be able to put up a show against Kenya, and then face off against Zimbabwe or whatever, and see where we can go with that. That's the most important thing. So the players would never want to be criticized forever. They'll want to bring out that hero mentality in them, and once they do that for Uganda, well and good. Once they have a bad game, they very much have to reflect on how to get better, because at test level, I think there is no room for excuses as a player when you put under pressure. I think we've watched lots of rugby documentaries or rugby talk shows where you see how players are really criticized and whatever, and they end up having to come out and perform at the highest level. So the fans, refs, players will very much, as long as it's here, I think everyone has the right to do that. Even as players, you have the right when you are losing 20-0 and then you come and 32-20 and say, you fans had no faith in us. I'm disappointed in the fans. But at the end of the day, everyone has the right to say what they have to say. It's just how we bounce back after what has been pointed out that matters in matters of this nature.
Yeah, really, I think you've said it all. I think we have really addressed that. But without taking much away from what's the fundamentals, what's really important is the preparation for the team. That we want the team to get, at least for everyone to get as much of an opportunity to show their stuff as possible, so that we are selecting the best 23 for the first game, and also keeping the necessary people around that are going to fill in for the entire tournament. But then also not forgetting that preparation shouldn't negate the aspect of what happens off the pitch. How can we get these guys to be a lot more comfortable with themselves? We have seen so many of these guys play for different clubs. We've seen the rivalries and the heartfelt attachment to their clubs, but it's maybe one of those things that in one way or the other, I don't know if it's addressed as much, but we need to make sure that once people are in the national team camp, everything club is forgotten. Let us see that we have a better bonding when you have Pirates people with Cobs people with Hippos players, with everyone. So me, I'm just looking at those two fundamentals. One, how can this trip bring the best out of the players, because I want each player to be given the opportunity to put their hand up so that no one goes in the back and they are saying that that's why even when we're talking about captaincy in the video we made about lineups that you did with Caesar and yourself and Caesar, that it's important to have no contention that my captain should be in the starting 15. So that's also an important aspect of what needs to be done. But then also, this tour should be an opportunity for these boys to even become better as friends, because it's easier for me to play with someone next to me when I know that I trust this person fully and entirely, rather than just seeing them as another guy from another club that perhaps is good as well, but I don't really understand him like that. Because we've talked about combination so many times, the centers, how people like to receive their passes, and how they maybe like to coordinate in defense, the communication styles, something that's very important. I mean, you could clearly see it in this Namibia game, that some passes that were given to Justin at some point were very low. Everyone knows Justin is most likely going to make knock-ons in those particular situations, because that's not how best he receives balls. So I think it comes with the territory to now understand each other, both on and off the pitch. Can you be able to comfortably communicate, whether it is a tough communication or it is something that is easy, that you're able to air out your grievance, you're able to air out your positive message, and it's also received in a good fashion, so that we have a proper synergized team. I think that Elgon Cup team that we had, you could clearly see, was just an assembly of players that were not really in sync. And that is something we want to go away from, that by the time Rugby Africa Cup comes, that we actually have a team that trusts one another, that wants to play for one another, and that understands that, you know what, even if I wasn't selected, man, the guy before me is the guy who is actually worthy of that number. And if I'm given my chance, then perhaps I will also do my best. So it's great to see that on this first outing, Yasin Waswa got his start. And we have seen, of course, Liam Walker, who in many people's opinion, especially since he has been playing at 12 a lot at club level, we're questioning if, and also the injuries here and there, we're questioning if he is ideally ready to be back into that setup as one of the competing teams. But I think you could clearly see that there was a bit of impact that he brought onto the pitch when he came on, him along with Aaron as well. So it's just game one. We can't wait for the other games. I hope that all games will be broadcast or streamed or whatever it is, and we can be able to assess. And just concluding with what you said, it's okay for people to criticize, but guys, sometimes make it balanced. Don't bring in conspiracy theories. Keep it rugby. Keep it, I didn't like the yellow card, blah, 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 blah. But don't go and now bringing in that he's being favored by refs, being favored by the union. Is the union the one running the game wherever he is right now? So let us keep our criticism very as rational as possible. I know fans have the liberty not to be rational, but as rational as possible. And the goal is Rugby Africa Cup.
The goal is Rugby Africa Cup. I think I don't know if I could just digress into that particular one. Rugby Africa Cup, I think what you guys have to recall and have this clear at the back of your minds is that our first game is on a Tuesday. So with the first game being on Tuesday, you very much have to organize yourselves as those who want to watch the game. And very much so, those who watched the last year games on Saturday. I think also I arrived there, I watched the first game, the second game, you saw Kenya sweating against Senegal. But I think what makes this particular tournament very interesting is you getting to appreciate the brands of rugby that different countries will play. Zimbabwe, obviously, who are defending champions, you would very much want to see what they have coming into this particular tournament as a face-off against Morocco. Those who know Morocco, the last time Uganda, not the last time, but maybe one of the most painful times Uganda played Morocco was when Uganda lost, I think, 5-3 at was it at Legends or Chadondo? The legends on here can be able to clarify for us. But they did describe that particular game as one of the most painful defeats Uganda has ever had at in its rugby journey. So playing Morocco, obviously, that beats Tunisia, and I think, as I said before, Tunisia coming to Uganda was going to be very important for us to test our combinations. But I thought it would only be of value if Tunisia would win against Morocco. And since they failed, I think at that point it becomes very nugatory to even come and assist Uganda, notwithstanding an MOU. But at that particular point, I think those of us here have to now get into a rack mood. Ruben, I think you'll have to cook something with your fat cats and see how we can get people very actively eager, awaiting the rack tournament. Obviously, Tuesday, then Saturday, Tuesday, Sunday, then Saturday. Just goes to show you that there will be more rest days in between for the teams, and also gives you a better opportunity to blast a bit. Makes you wonder why the public holidays came way before. But anyway, regardless, we have to just keep on playing. So from a rugby perspective, I think, and obviously, those of you who witnessed our, I really must thank all of you who took your time to watch that 20-something minute video. It just goes to show you that coaches, we sat in the room and just turned a very funny discussion into something serious. But it just goes to show you that the coaches now have to deal with this for a period of nearly, how long? From nearly 5-6 months, I think. They have been analyzing performance and the like, and they keep track of the player and what they can do at a particular time. So it just gives an appreciation of what it takes to be a coach. I don't know if we can, with time, maybe that avenue of also getting what referees go through could be something. Obviously, I wanted Shafiq to come on. I think Shafiq, I don't know if Shafiq is on here. I've sent him WhatsApp, but I wanted him to talk about the Get Into the Rugby program, where the French rugby union officials, as well as Rugby Afrique educators, took coaches, referees, and team managers through different learning sessions on how to do that. I don't know if refs can also give us an insight of what it takes, but having been able to see what they were doing through their videos, you could see that refs also go through quite the preparation for games, just to see that insight of what it is. But from a fan's perspective, now imagine seeing the refs going through their paces at that level. It just shows you that there's level of dedication and level of what poise that is required to execute these things. So for those of you who saw the video, do watch it again, but thank you very much for watching it. We thought it was too long, but from those of you who reacted to the video and what you saw and what you proposed, what you suggested, we're very much grateful for your input, and hopefully we can have very many more interactive sessions in respect to Rugby Africa and what our prospects against Kenya will be looking like. Ruben, I think we did not discuss too much of the sevens. but the boys will be going to Mauritius this weekend. I don't know if the team has been named, but if that has been done, hopefully we can get an update in terms of artwork and see who particularly is going to be donning the black, yellow, red, or the famous Nile Special White in Mauritius for 2 days as they play against other teams. What's at stake? A victory for Uganda means they will qualify for the World Cup 2027, if I'm not mistaken. We'll just check that again and see. And then the top two teams outside Kenya and South Africa, considering they're already in the HSBC as well as the lower tier, respectively, will go to the Challenger Series. So lots of rugby to expect coming up. But as maybe Ruben, as you give your final remarks on this, let me try and get Joshua Wakabi or Shafiq as well to say a thing or two about Hippos and your activities respectively.
Yeah, okay. Of course, definitely high stakes for the sevens as well, and we have come to a position where we are having a number of the national teams really preparing at the same time. So that means there is a need to have the resources all set, and for both the 15s and the sevens. Normally, I've not seen any lineups yet or any squad announcements yet, but we have those special people that somehow release the squad before the union. So maybe we shall get a glimpse of that before we confirm with the official one that the union shares. But I'm anticipating, of course, a predominantly young seven side to be taken to Mauritius, and really the work is cut out for them, and it's also going to be a bit tough. But many of these players have been, if I'm just envisioning some of the players that I have that we have been seeing within the ranks, while the more senior players like the Timothy Kisigas have been featuring. You'll find that now these boys have been around the fringes. Now it's the ultimate test for them to determine how much they have been learning, how much they've been soaking up, and how much of that has been implemented. Also, their confidence levels and the ability to translate and implement what the coaches really have given them to at the Rugby Africa 7th stage. So it's going to be a good test. One thing I'll say kudos to the authorities that before making sure that we have a 15th team that has gone out to compete. We have a 7th team that is in South Africa, a 15th team men that is in South Africa. We had the 15th women that have been in Madagascar. And now we are also going to be having a 7th team that's going to Mauritius. So I don't think it's an easy feat, but also being able to support all aspects and all angles of that is particularly good. I would not be very disappointed if our Ugandan side does not win it eventually, because I think it's going to be predominantly young. But I hope that they can be in contention to at least make the final or at least finish third. I would particularly be happy with that, because again, we're trying to see how to build. We on previous spaces we have talked about the cycles of rugby and how we saw the likes of Adrian Casito, of Timothy Kisiga, the Nkores, and all that come from young boys that have been making so many mistakes to the brink of HSBC qualification at some point, but that heartbreaking game that I think we watched at Kings Park with you, Edwin, to understanding that with transitions, players come and then they reach maybe their optimum, or for one reason or the other have to transition to another part of their career. And maybe that's why you see the likes of Isaac Massa, you see the likes of the Timothy Kisigas now looking in a different direction. Yes, they can still be potent within the sevens program, but how are we also thinking about continuity of that sevens program? So I think it's important to now give the opportunity to a predominantly young side to also earn their stripes, to make their mistakes, and also to make sure that they also accomplish their goals. So just wishing them all the best and hoping that they can be able to make us proud. Of course, if they win it all, amazing. But of course, a stand test this particular Yeah, because South Africa, I believe, will be quite serious with the tournament as well. I believe Kenya is also not coming to play around with the tournament. So yeah, let us just wait and see what comes out of it.
Forget even Kenya and South Africa. Even Zimbabwe has come with guns blazing. They have put many of their players who played last year's RAC. Tapiwa Mafura, I saw Tavesere. There's this guy called Edward who they are all there. So also them, they are going for gold. Me, my team, the Rugby Cranes, we want a win. Like there is no shortcut about it. If you don't win, the sevens program of Uganda literally dies, because we have to look at it in the grand scheme of things of how World Rugby has changed the whole format. The impact of this is that, as was discussed, I think, when there was the Zimbabwe tournament in 2023, where they were going to play the third place playoff against Zimbabwe. And the question at hand was that we have not qualified for Olympics, but we need to put ourselves in a position where the sevens program does not collapse. Because the implication of not winning this particular tournament is that Uganda will only play Safari Sevens and Africa Sevens next year, if it's even there. You understand? So there is a lot at stake in risk. I think next year there's a Rugby Sevens World Cup. So it just goes to show you that there is a lot at stake.
What's the breakdown of qualification for the World Cup and the resulting tournaments around this year's edition?
Well, the breakdown is the top two will go to the World Cup, and then the top two outside South Africa and Kenya will go for the Challenger Series. So you can clearly see that there is no room for error. From the times we started going for the World Cup, we went in 2018. Was it 18 or 19? 18. That was in San Francisco. Then we also went for the Cape Town World Cup. So the next one, I think, is where? Man, I'm all over the place, but we'll confirm that. But it just goes to show you that this program will literally be dead if we do not win this tournament. So for me, it is more of like not to put players on pressure, but we need to win that tournament. I feel, having seen the players play against the opposition they faced in the Kampala Sevens, they lost to South Africa All Stars Academy, but managed to beat them under tough circumstances. That grit that put them against the wall, and they managed to come out and beat the All Stars. That spark there was enough for me to say that these boys have gelled as a team. I like the chemistry they have. I'm very confident that if they put their heads right into the right headspace, they are very much able of beating. We need that game against Kenya in the group phases. We need to beat Kenya in the group and go into day one, go into day two, very confident. Beat Kenya in the pool, and then go guns blazing for the knockout phases. Land on South Africa, beat them, and listen, the tournament is one where we can easily go through and win. So for me, I'm very, very confident. I'm very confident that if our boys follow the advice they have been taking, the drills they have done all this time, without a doubt, they will go ahead and win this tournament. That's the minimum they need to do. At worst, finish second, but they need to win the tournament. That's the only way the sevens program will be retained. They'll go next year to Challenger Series, Safari Sevens, as well as Africa Sevens. Even the World Cup is also on the line. So without a doubt, opportunity remains there. It's up to them to get it done.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, you do have a point. A lot of things are at stake. It's important, however, to understand that I'm sure these boys know that also their opportunities are on the line when it comes to what they're going to be playing in the coming year. So they're going to be playing for it. But then again, if they falter, we shouldn't be again so hard on them. However, I do believe that if we are going by the basis of what we saw at Kampala Sevens, that team that was presented, of course, maybe they'll add a few players here and there. Who do you think are the core of that squad? Because I'm just trying to think of a potential squad before any communications are put out, and who would be maybe an ideal starting 7 from those that are not committed to 15s.
Obviously, without a doubt, the core players will be first of all those who have played this year from the Challenger Series in South Africa. Those ones are very, very key core players, and I don't think there has been any change whatsoever from that particular team. But also notably, you have to look at the experienced players who have been on that team before. You're looking at Karim, who won an Africa Cup. You're looking at Rinda, you're looking at Kenny. Those are seasoned players in the team. And obviously, they have to not wrap the other younger players in cotton wool, but they have to be in a position where they are able to stand up and make the game very, very playable for Uganda. Players like Aaron Tuke has been around for quite some time in the 7 setup, obviously coming through the ranks in the playmaker role, but he has grown of age. Malcolm is getting his stride in the 7s. Jones Kamiza switched from the 15s to 7s. He has to very much be there. Roy Kizito, I think, had his debut for the 7s last year, the Safari 7s, and Dubai, and not last year, but the other year, 2023, and then had the Dubai 2024 and the like. So very much has to get his bearings right in respect to that. Roy Kizito, rather interestingly, has been playing in the forwards. I think if you watch the Kampala 7s, you'd see him being carried with the line out. So just goes to show you that the players have to step up. Alan Olango as one of the players also who is very important. And then one of the twins, I think, I'll not allow to butcher who it is, but it just goes to show you that that core team of players has to very much be integral in their ability to step up and play. I think the beauty about this team is that they have gelled as one, similar to teams of past. But I think they have lots of youth on their side, and they are getting as many games under their belt as possible. And with how the 7's calendar is changing and the like, we are very much interested in seeing how far they can go. I'm trusting these boys to be able to get it done. They can go and make themselves great on the continent and defend Uganda's title that Uganda won last year. So without a doubt, having seen them play against SA All Stars may not be the standards of Blitz box, but the test they got under that situation, the ability to watch those games and understand what they need to get better. The experience of the Challenger Series is going to be very, very instrumental in seeing how they can formulate a plan to win the games that they will be participating in. But let me just try and see if I can get the group.
I am here looking at it. The photo of the boys that won the Kampala Sevens. That squad had Roy Chizito, had Patrick Okello, had Marco Suna, had Aaron Tuke, had Malcolm Okello, Noba Tukeni, Karim Arinaitwe. This is, I think, these twins confuse me, but this must be Arnold Ochen. Jones Kamiza, Dennis Etwao, and Alan Olango. Those were the 12 that played at the Kampala Sevens.
Wasn't there even Mubarak Wandera?
Yes, Mubarak Wandera. Sorry, I think I missed him. He's actually here in the picture. And you can say, when I look at this squad, use, of course, Norbert Okeny, very integral. Karim Arinaitwe has been there, so he's going to be core to how that team is also set up. Now you're looking at, of course, Mubarak Wandera is going to maybe get a lot more responsibility in the forwards. Alan Olango looks like our out and out enforcer, but I think if there's one thing to maybe critique about this team, I don't think we have, in my opinion, enough enforcers. You know, when you're trying to you're trying to see how a structure is being played, and then how you maybe get some people to suck in as many defenders as possible, maybe create some threat and some defensive honesty in the, especially in the middle of the field, so that you can create space on the outside. I don't know if Alan Olango will be able to handle that role by himself. Remember, the previous team used to have guys like Desire Era, then you had Pius Ogena, then who else was in that particular enforcer role? But you need to ideally, in your squad of 12, have at least 2 or 3 enforcers. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think rather uniquely that this cohort here, I think for all they are, they'll give you different facets of the game. I think this one they will very much use their silky skills more to get it done. So don't be shocked if we play a very much wide running game and try very much to exploit the gaps as opposed to the forcer. I think similar to what? What can I use as an example? Similarly to relationships, if you're a boyfriend, you can do as much as you can to avoid spending money when it comes to dating, but you'll eventually have to spend it. So the same thing here. You may as well not have the so-called enforcers on pitch, but there will come a time where you'll need to enter contact, you'll need to sweep a rack to counter it, and I best believe the players are very much suited for that particular role. It may not be their strongest assets in terms of size and physique, but they'll grow into their roles with time. But I think the way they played the Kampala Sevens, I think, is going to be very indicative of how they intend to go ahead with this particular tournament.
I think the biggest test, we all know, especially with the 7 sides that Coach Tolbert has produced over the years, the offense is not normally the problem. Our test is going to be in defense. Can we hold, especially in defense, when now we are not the ones with the ball and we have to hold fort? We have always complained about, maybe, especially with sevens, having to come across maybe teams that are bigger and faster, or at least bigger and faster. And that has been a challenge for us over time. So that's what's one thing that I'm eager to see how we are going to counter that, because this squad is not that big. Even if you're to compare it to the previous squad of Uganda sevens, this squad is not that big. So defensively, it's going to be quite a test. Offensively, I don't think I have any qualms with them. Maybe, of course, we are discussing this because this is the most recent we have seen, but who knows? Coach Tolbert is always very unpredictable, and you may find some very interesting additions, some eye raisers or eyebrow raisers within the squad ahead of their travel. But I'm also keen to see the organization of, especially the combination of the playmakers. You're talking about the sweeper and the sweeper 9 and the first receiver who acts as the 10 in the backs. Those are the 2 people who are also integral to the way we normally play as Uganda Sevens. And I'm curious to see, because now you have Malcolm, you have Aaron 2K, you have, I'm looking at Aaron 2K, I'm looking at Malcolm. Karim Arinaitwe. How do you again now use Karim a lot to play? Because Karim is a very good finisher, But now you bring him inside. I don't know how. Of course, it worked for them at Kampala Sevens. I'm not disputing anything. I'm just questioning because now we are going to be playing a whole different breed of opposition.
One of Karim's key strengths is the step on the inside. I think his ability to get the defenders guessing is what allows players like Olango or is it Arthur, as well as Roy Kizito to run on his outside. So I think we have seen it before. He got Okeni a try in the last leg last year in Poland, and he just shows that he is a deceptive runner on the inside or on the outside, so he can easily cut back in. And as the Cranes, we just need to have the support runners. So for Karim to, I think Karim will be playing 9 if I'm not mistaken. He will be the primary ball handler of the scrum and the breakdown. So for him, ideally his role is to just get the offense running and also coordinate with 2K to prepare the offense for Team Uganda. I think that's the most important thing for these particular players going into this particular tournament. It's just the supporting lines and having good attack in respect to that. It becomes very easy for Uganda to do that, and I think that's where that particular game against Kenya becomes in the group stages becomes very, very integral. I'm just trying to go through the page where I saw this. I must say Hippos Rugby really tweet about a lot of rugby. I'm trying to go through their media to find the groups. Yes, I finally found them. Yes. So the tournament is 21st to 22nd June. That's Saturday and Sunday. Pool A, obviously having Uganda, who are champions. Pool B, South Africa. Pool C, Madagascar, and then Pool A, Kenya. So those are the top 4 teams last year, and it just keeps on. No, Zimbabwe, sorry, was number 4 last year, so it keeps on flowing like that. So Pool A is Uganda, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. Pool B is South Africa, Burkina Faso, Zambia, and Nigeria with their new Umbro kit. And then Pool C is Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Tunisia, and Mauritius. So you get a sense of what things are going to look like in respect to that. Key test coming in against Kenya, without a doubt, would very much need to do the hard work, and also the unpredictable Cote d'Ivoire. Never know what may happen. There's that flyer of theirs who played 15s last year. What is it called? Alexander, not Alexander. Is it not Piastri? I'm thinking about F1. Alexander, is it Plata or something like that? He might be an integral. I think he might play, or even if he doesn't play, you wouldn't be shocked if we didn't get past you to have him on the team, or some 15 players cross the other side and also play. So without a doubt, you have that. And news just in is that the Cranes will be touching down tomorrow at Entebbe at 11 a.m. So you can very much practice your Tuesday by going to the airport ahead of RAC and welcome our girls who finished third at the women's rugby tournament.
Do guys still carry flowers to the airport, or that trend also died?
I was part of the guys who welcomed the ladies and men from Tunisia, and I was captured in a photo where love was flourishing, and I was just behind there wishing. So from that day, I said I'll never go to the airport again to welcome unless otherwise. So from that day, I said no.
You were captured in a certain photo at the back, looking very idle, just smiling from ear to ear, while someone came to embrace their other person For you were just there. I was wondering, what is Edwin doing at the airport?
I'd gone to Department of Mines for some work, and then I was told that the guys were coming on Emirates flight. That day was jam packed. I think we left the airport very late. There was a lot of traffic getting out of the airport, so it was quite the trip. So you can imagine that afternoon Emirates flight is quite. I think there is SN Brussels around that time, and Emirates either landing or departing. So that flight around there has lots of people who are going, guys going to the Middle East, guys going to Europe. So it was quite the chaos in terms of traffic. Yeah, but I think I'll be very careful when I next go to the airport. I don't need to be captured in scenes where you look like you're very disoriented because people are in love. So I'll not do that again.
Yeah, I was waiting to see who you are going to give flowers to, and then we start cutting word, as is the norm in our rugby here. But anyway, what else do we have to talk about that we haven't talked about?
No, I'd sent a request to Joshua Wakavi of Hippos to jump in. Josh, I know you're listening in. I'd sent you a request, so please accept it. Let me just send it to you again, and you can give us a thing to discuss on, and we can go ahead from there. So let's just give Josh a second or two to join in, and then we can. Lots of things going on in Hippos here and there, and we'll also give this coverage in a series of podcasts to best get an understanding of what's going on at Dam Waters.
Meanwhile, in the meantime, Banang, Philip is really shining at the Rugby Premier League in India. I'm just generally happy to see him get these opportunities, and hopefully maybe he'll feature in the top 14 of the Premiership at some point. Man, I think it's a different kind of support when you're actually supporting someone that's from your country, someone that you know, that you've spoken to, as compared to these clubs we support. We don't even know if we'll ever meet the people. But it was nice seeing him being there, playing against some of the best players in the world. Of course, interesting concept that India has brought in the Rugby Premier League, but seeing Philip being able to hold his own at that level, I think is so dope. And you could even see yesterday their first game, because he's playing for a team called the Bengaluru Bravehearts. Yesterday they were playing very well, and for some, I think because of contracts and everything and the squad that's available, you have to make sure everyone gets some game time. And of course, with the maybe viability from the commercial point of view. They were playing well, they were in control of the game. Then the coach or the management, whoever handles that particular team, made some subs, and they removed him and that other guy called, I think, whatever his name is. I think he's from New Zealand. Aki something. I'll look for the name and I'll say it.
Rokalasoa.
Yeah, that one. Him and Rokalisoa are the two guys that are really holding that team in place. Actually, today the commentators were like, because I think the way players were recruited were in three forms. According to what I was listening, when I was listening to the commentators, they're the marquee players I think those are the top tier sevens rugby players in the world. And then you have what they called the bridge players. Now, the bridge players are players that have a certain level of potential or talent, but that are not part of those very big countries. Now, those are the likes of Philip and all the other guys that are in. Maybe you can also put Patrick Odongo in that category. Then they're the local players. Of course, they have their players from their Indian teams there. that they are using to gel into particular teams and create franchises that are competing in a sevens. I think it's continuous because it started yesterday, but I think it's going until, I need to get the full dates, but it's running for more than 5 days or so. And there's sort of, I think it's a round robin of sort, and then there's going to be maybe the playoffs as well, or the quarterfinals, things like that. But just looking at how the setup of the league is, they are playing 4 quarters. So you play sevens, you play 1 game a day, and then you play a quarter, and then you have a bit of a resting period, another quarter. So there are 4 quarters as compared to what would normally be 2 halves in rugby. And today Philip was on fire. Yesterday he scored 1 try and he had 1 assist. Today he had 2 tries. And a conversion, scoring a brace. Him and Rokalisoa came off the bench this time around. They started on the bench, and the team that started was actually losing to a team called Kalilanga something, Kalilanga Tigers or Black Tigers. Yes. Now that team had Roscoe Speckman, Perry Baker, and some other guys, and they were leading at some point 10-0, and then the changes were made, and you could see a totally different team. They just washed the other team so easily. But how Philip was so confident at that level was just so impressive to see. And man, as a Ugandan fan in general, because we support all these other things, guys support South Africa, me, England, but it all goes back to the core, man. When it's Uganda, it's a special feeling, and I was really just genuinely happy for him to see him at that level.
Yeah, I also watched the games. I think I missed the second game, but I managed to rewind the link of Rugby Pass, and I watched, and I saw that 10-0 thingy. Longbottom was shining, of course, and whatever with his team. I think his team also has Speckman as well, so they were there playing and whatever. But when they brought on Rokolosoa and Philip, hey, problems started. Philip did that. I think Anes posted. He did the bad Ruseninde, but this time he actually passed the defender. Never leave Philip space on the wing, even if it's just 5 meters. You rather stand outside and be like, you round me and go outside the pitch. But if you leave him any room, he will show you what's up. I think by far, in terms of the level of rugby he has played, that's the level of competition, you could make the argument, even by far, you could even authoritatively say the greatest player Uganda has ever had in terms of rugby. I think he has been there, done that. The earlier players did get their opportunities. I think Robert Seguya played for African Leopards as well as Soki. But I think seeing Philip at this level, also playing the RPL, as they call it, you can just appreciate his greatness, that the man has continuously picked. I mean, it's even very hard to say what his peak is. Is it now? Was it last year? Was it 2022? You can't tell. The man just keeps on increasing. So I think the only thing as a nation we can just be proud of a man of the soil that is being able to dominate at the highest levels of rugby. I think without a doubt, you find yourselves appreciating his talent. And if you could just come and give us one season in Uganda, I think Cobbs will get PTSD. Those old days when he would just step back he would just cut back one step and the whole backline has been taken this side, and then it's now a chasing game trying to get him back. So that rivalry will be very good as well as Pirates and the other teams as well. But I think if Philip ever reaches the point of retiring, he needs to give Ugandans one season at least to see him play, because those fans who didn't see him play for Heathens and Buffaloes, they very much missed a lot. And obviously the memories there are still a little bit hazy, but would very much want to see him one more game or one more season at rugby. And seeing how transfers are going, don't be shocked if a transfer is announced even before he comes back. So, but I think it's good to see someone shine Uganda's flag very high at a tournament of that caliber. I think it's very good. But Ruben, Joshua is here. I think he can just take us through. Joshua, how are you doing? And what do you have to say about your rugby this weekend? What do you have to say about the rugby this weekend that was watched?
All right. Thanks, Edwin and Ruben, for hosting me. Of course, it's a great pleasure to be here, and thanks for bringing us together every single Monday. I didn't watch a lot of rugby this weekend, Central Australia. But yeah, watched a couple of highlights, of course, on social media. The latest Cranes playing there, and of course, in Madagascar. I think that was my kind of game that I was interested in over the weekend. Watching Tina play, of course, is one of those things that I would like to do. But again, interestingly, in Ginger, we also had something important that was happening, and a members' meeting being held there with the objective of providing updates to all stakeholders in terms of what is happening. The long story cut short is that I think there is a bit of history to whatever is happening there. One being the fact that this started as soon as we assumed office in November the 9th, but also wanted to give members an opportunity to, engage and forge kind of a future direction, discuss in terms of the next steps on how we can strengthen the position of the club going forward. And of course, now that success is on the horizon, we want as much as possible to ensure that we're aligning the vision of the club with all stakeholders. So I know I don't have a lot of time, but there were key resolutions that were reached, and I think I'll go through them in order of importance as it was discussed and agreed upon in that meeting. One of them is the over understanding that we need to continue dialoguing with Mr. Manzi. This is the most important point above all. Maybe to bring people up to speed. Of course, we've had these engagements through the Eastern Uganda Rugby Association and, of course, the Uganda Rugby Union and National Council of Sports. The idea is that we come to a table and find an amicable way forward. And I believe there have been, I don't want to call them failures, but there have been hiccups along the way, including that infamous letter which reverted Ginger Hippos Rugby Football Club to the 2013 Constitution. So I think that didn't go well with a lot of people across board. But then again, in this meeting, it was the first point or resolution that was mentioned. And maybe for the union, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but a bigger challenge is that, and everyone on this space knows that the union could be going through a bit of a transition based on the fact that we have the Sports Act in place and some of its organs are not as functioning as effectively as they would have done. But this is our first prayer as a club, that we continue dialoguing with Mr. Manzi, sitting on a table and then agreeing on the next steps in terms of how the club can continue focusing on the future. Then the second resolution from that meeting in Ginger over the weekend was that we continue rebutting this claim of Ginger Hippos Rugby Football Club being an illegal club, not being registered with any rugby entity in the country. The background to this is that a lot of people might know, including some of our colleagues on this space that in 2018 there was some form of transition to Ginger Hippos Rugby Club. There were several legal documents, including a constitution, registration certificates, and that all these audits that have happened as a requirement from the rugby union, and these all reads Ginger Hippos Rugby. I wouldn't want to go really into those details because this is not the space to go into them. Maybe we'll have a moment much later, but that was the second resolution. The third, which is really undesirable at the moment, is go the legal way. We've all seen these things happen within the rugby circles. More recently, I wouldn't want to mention clubs or anything like that. But the idea is, if the worst, we'll need some form of legal arbitration in this debacle. There are a couple of options on the table. The committees are aware, the members are aware, for those that attended this meeting. And the last and the most undesirable, which would be a failure of Ugandan rugby, is to continue at Ginger Hippos, RFC, if most especially Resolution 1 and 2 fail. This means that the players are willing to start afresh, not based on the fact that they're not a legal entity, not based on the fact that they're not part of whatever is happening, but they understand that their body is on the line. They understand that the big stakeholders of the club, and they would want this to be resolved amicably. But if it's not resolved amicably, the idea is that they're willing to do whatever is necessary to keep together as a team. And many of you might be in the know. And of course, earlier on the space, someone mentioned that, I think it was Daniel, who mentioned that we're friends to players, we're friends to everyone else in rugby. And maybe there have been rumors floating around that the players are willing to go into the championship and fight their way up. So wouldn't wish this to happen. But I believe if the worst came to the worst, then they're willing to consider this, and it was the last resolution they made. I don't know if at all Edwin or Ruben that does it, but of course, just provide a little bit of background in terms of what happened on Saturday. Of course, we regret the ugly scenes at pit stop. Whatever happened isn't in the spirit of the game. People being wrapped up, people being arrested. And if you have followed what has happened on social media and in some rugby circles, specific individuals being targeted, in some case, I think it was the game against, I think it was Mongers at Motors, someone almost getting deported, someone being taken to a police cell and all these things. I don't think that's the rugby that we know in Uganda, and that's not the spirit of the game. But these are scenes that are playing out just because of this debacle, and just to appeal to everyone to just exercise some form of restraint. It's not the end of the world. We're open to dialogue. And as the chairman and as the voice of the executive committee, we believe this is a time to really show unity and to ensure that we're putting the mighty club and the boys and the girls at the front of whatever discussions we're making. There was a particular question, I think, Edwin, that you asked about the future of the Nile Rapids. As chairman, and you'd have noted from Coach Sean Afrotaf on his, I think, expost earlier today or this evening, mentioning in terms of the training regime and all that. All plans are in place for both the men and the women's teams to ensure that we continue supporting the boys and the girls to play the game. And, we have partners in place. We have individuals that are always willing to support. And that is the beauty of Ginger Hippos Rugby Club. So, everyone should, rest. Be rest assured that this case will be resolved, and whatever is happening in Ginger will be coming to an end sooner than later. Over to you, Edwin.
I think as when we hosted Manzi here, I think the major thing was with all these happenings in Ginger and the incidents here and there, the key question always comes down to this, notwithstanding the behind the scenes talks that have been going on and whatever, how do we get this club back to its glory? Obviously, it had a very fruitful season, a very unfortunate ending in the finale against Pirates. Obviously, openly, clearly seeing the quality of Pirates across those minutes that were played. But it just goes shows that a club that has been very, very promising is now facing the consequences of a leadership struggle. And at the end of the day, I know as we have been discussing privately, we'll have something robust and elaborate to discuss this. But it comes down to this for those who are listening in and have not been privy to union conversations, the internal discussions and whatever. Has it reached a point where the factions, if I could use that language, the factions cannot resolve these issues across each other on a round table?
Edwin, I mean, it is really heartbreaking. I don't know if I know you know me, if I know Ruben knows me. I know you guys. I know a lot of people on this space. Our interest as the executive committee is not taking anything away from the game or from the team. The whole idea behind Ginger Hippos Rugby Football Club is that it's a community club, right? The individuals, the partners, and everyone else who is, sticking out their neck to ensure that, the team progresses the next step of development. Technically, I think we're now a third year of progressing to the next level of our approach to the game. And then these things happen. We're at the stage of something great. I remember someone here asking me what's happening. And our goal is, small. If we didn't win it last year, we should be winning it in the next season because of the plans we have in place. I can't take you into the details, but one of the reasons why I accepted to stand for the position of chairman was to make the club commercially viable. Right now, we're relying on individual contributions, well-wishers, fans, and all these partners that are either providing a small job, a small stipend, maybe to a player, or they're providing food or medical services, right, to the team. We can't compete at that level if we're thinking small, right? And for me, this we call it a squab and all that. It's not a game of egos. It's not a game of anything. It's all about what is the next step. Ginger Hippos is one of the best things that has ever happened to Ugandan rugby. And it takes a lot of team effort. It takes a lot of individuals thinking ahead of time, planning for everything, making sure we have the right, plans in place, and ensuring that the boys really play their hearts out. Whatever is happening is quite unfortunate, and for me, it's not the end of the team. I can assure you that it's not the end. Like I mentioned earlier, we want dialogue. We want to ensure that all stakeholders come to a table and this is resolved as soon as possible. With whatever has happened in terms of the other resolutions, maybe from the players, maybe from our partners and all that, we can always also sit down and ensure that something amicable is worked upon.
Okay, another thing that has been pointed out in respect to this matter involving the factions of the Hippos is that at this particular point now you have sponsors being dragged in, players being dragged in, and these are key stakeholders in any rugby franchise or establishment. And for those who are at the apex of this institution, that is Ginger Hippos and Manzi as well, how are you willing to get players on the side of focusing on the rugby? Because we have seen the players actively getting involved with resolutions and as well as sponsors. I think if you could confirm that my understanding is that sponsors have actually, when these pronouncements were going on behind closed doors, sponsors actually withdrew until issues of management had been resolved. And that's had a consequence on the Rapids, if I'm not mistaken. You could confirm if I'm wrong or right. But in instances where now players are empowered to be actively involved in management as well as playing, how do you plan on getting these things aligned so that we do not have two factions of a club having no players and the one having players opting to go and run this thing afresh?
Thank you. Of course, the most unfortunate thing that happened when we received communication on April the 9th was that, of course, we updated everyone, all the stakeholders, in terms of the decision that was made. So immediately, that was early April. So immediately, all partners, all sponsors pulled funding. It's not much money, really, but it is enough to, for other people to make a contribution and to ensure that the team is there. And that, I think, happened towards the semi-final against Cobs, and you might realize the ugly scenes that were there in Ginger for that first semi-final against the Cobs. Very regrettable scenes. But again, Ginger is a very small city, I might say. We might have, partners or sponsors on board because of our relationship. And I think broadly that's how rugby has been working in Uganda, because you have a relationship with a particular individual, with a particular company. They can always provide you with support. Now, pulling funding really, really, really and support really affected us as a club. And we had to pull all sorts of moves to ensure that the team plays at Legends and winning that semi-final, but also getting to the final at Kings Park. For us, and I believe we're not meant to lose that game. I'm very certain. Unfortunately, we did. But again, what that meant, if you look at it from another angle, from a commercial angle, was that the scenes or the things that were happening behind, the what was happening on the pitch and the bickering that was happening off the pitch, it has cost us money. We had deals in the pipeline, up to 3 huge sponsorships, and those are currently on ice, right? And that's big. We can't, of course, we can always support the boys, we can always support the girls and the team to continue playing. But the only difference between, and I think we're maybe the 5th or the 6th poorly funded club in the Premiership. But imagine a Ginger Hippo that is commercially viable and it has the right partners in place, the kind of upset would cause in Ugandan rugby. And for me as chairman, that's the kind of direction I wanted to take. And you mentioned the effect on the Nile Rapids. That actually, like I mentioned earlier, this whole thing started as soon as we had been elected as a new ExCom. some form of fighting, someone thinking there was money somewhere, and maybe we're lining our pockets and things like that. And yet we need to come up with a plan. And personally, there was this plan to ensure that the girls team continues playing. And then certain things happened, which I won't say here. And then people had to put a stop to that and say, we're not going to support this, we're not going to support that, we're not going to support that. And that's a matter of principle from individuals who understand what could be happening. But again, like I mentioned earlier, we're really committed. We want the boys and the girls to continue playing. We want to be as successful as any other rugby club in the country.
Ruben, do you have anything to ask Joshua?
It seems all the questions we have are probably for the podcast, because there are many things that he might not want to reveal here, in my opinion. At least that's what I take from his submission.
Okay, I also agree. Maybe as a teaser for the podcast that will be coming with Joshua, I will just end the submission. Thank you very much, Joshua, for your time. All I'll ask is that pirate statement that they always put there. I'll ask you, and hopefully you can come with the answers on the podcast. Who is in charge?
I will, and thanks for hosting me. Junior is in charge. So, yeah, thank you.
Wishing you all the best. I'll be in your DM, and we'll finalize the day when we can have this discussion at great length without any network issues. We just go full course discussion.
Sure, thanks. I'll be available for that, Adrian and Ruben. Thank you.
Okay. Nice discussion I've had. I think dissecting the rugby issues of the weekend and what to expect. Obviously, Mauritius is on the weekend. Some nice tropical beach vibes, but if you can't make it to the beach vibes in Mauritius, we can go to Entebbe and watch the Central Sevens this weekend at Busambaga grounds, the Mungas pitch there, and see what Warriors, Impis, the Sharks, Blue Phoenix, Kisubi, Pacers, they use the Panthers, the Golden Badgers, Namugongo, Mukono Hawks as well have cooked for us. You can go give those teams a watch and see what to expect from those that will play the next leg, which will be the weekend after, and what the ramifications will be in terms of promotion for next year's Sevens tournament. Obviously, as we said, there's a new Sevens committee in charge. I like the aspect of us putting out statements announcing these things. Unfortunately, we didn't get Shafiq today to explain some of these things. He must be approving some late budgets for Mauritius, as well as organizing the return of our girls. So busy man, but we hope we can have him maybe next week on Monday to just give us an update of where we are. Obviously, talking about Namibia and the consequences it had on our performance and preparations for Rugby Africa Cup, as well as the aspect of whether funds are valid to criticize or if they are too harsh. My conclusion on that is that fans have the right to do so. Players just have to painfully deal with the comments that come out, sieve the noise, focus on the positive criticism, and then deliver the performances that will make us fans keep quiet and say, yes, though the performance is not dedicated to the fans, it's for the good of the nation, but the fans will naturally keep quiet, so that's fine. So we'll wait and see. The ladies did well in Madagascar, finishing third, topping the stats here and there, and it's our hope and prayer that they can be able to deliver more goodies next year as well as later on this year in Elgon Cup, if that is to be held. And hopefully, if we can even have one more test with Tunisia this year, that would be a good touch to it for women's rugby this year. But I think thank you all for joining. We will very much keep it fat cuts, but as always, an M-Pesa and bills here. If you're looking for where to have a nice meal in town, that is the city. With a view of the park, do check out Lock and Key Restaurant at Royal Complex, 4th floor, Nakasero Road, just after the market. You can very much go downtown and leave your valuables very safe in the lockers that are very well attended to. You can also have a taste of their promotions. Tomorrow is a happy hour for cocktails from 2 to 8 p.m. If you want to buy me a cocktail, or if you want me to buy a cocktail, please let's DM each other and get in touch in respect to that, and have some fun, hopefully even on Wednesday with the pizza offer, which is buy one, get one free, as well as on Sundays. Then the Gardens Nigeria. If you feel you want to show the fat cats you're a smart guy, or you want to show Team Tranquility that you have the brains and glamour to perform in the quiz, do check out the Gardens Nigeria quiz, which happens every Tuesday starting at 9 p.m. It's quite the interactive quiz, very challenging. I remember Ruben thought he was a smart guy. He's still a smart guy, but that day he had to read more. If you want to get a test on the Israel-Iran conflict, I think Gardens will put you to the test with the quiz master, who very much likes quizzing on current events that transpire. But even if you miss the quiz, you can very much attend the Catch a Reggae Vibe every Wednesday. There's also an open market session where you can easily engage in discussions on buying some Jamaican artifacts as you listen to some nice reggae music. Thursday has the Rock Night. Friday has the Friday Leon Nights, courtesy of Sunny FM, as well as the East African Meat Carnival, which is the last Saturday of every month. This particular carnival will very much pay tribute to DJ Bush Baby, who was one of the pioneers of this segment of celebrating East African music. So you will very much get the details of the lineup as well as the food to partake in. But very much so, as we do all this, as we drive to Entebbe, as we watch the games in Mauritius, as we watch the friendlies, as we welcome the ladies from Madagascar, do enjoy it with a cold Nile special. Don't drink during work hours. Will not be responsible for what you do at that time. Keep it responsible drinking, and you very much have the time of your life when it comes to having a nice one in the evening. So thank you very much for listening. Ruben, I think if we have anything else, we can say, but good night.
Musule bulungi mweraba.